It's November 9th, 2016, the day after the election, and it's an early podcast. And John, why are you breathing heavy?
That's not me, Andrew. That's my able-bodied dog, my trustworthy Dexter, my big old Bernese Mountain Dog.
I can hear him in the background. He must be happy that he's going to get some dog food today. He's got you in his arms.
He's happy we can still afford the dog food.
All right. So, what time did you stay up till last night?
I kept waking up, but I think like a lot of our listeners, Andrew, you knew when the market started moving to the downside that Trump was leading. And that really, at mid-session yesterday when we failed at 2146, and I was retweeting a friend of mine on Twitter, Market Model, when I saw that he called that and I retweeted him, and we turned and burned to the downside, in the regular session. In other words, we gave up the 160-point gain, and we were more or less holding on to 80. And then, as the polls started closing, all of a sudden, as the networks are all trying to say, well, you better watch all night, folks, you better watch, this could go into the early morning hours, all of a sudden, the S&P futures start trading in there down 180, down 300. An hour later, they're down 500. An hour later, they're down 700. And I've got them. I've got screenshots of all of it. And, I think that told you all you needed to know, that was the shock. But here's the part that I'd point out to our listeners, Andrew. We had talked about hedging forever.
Oh, yeah, we got to thank Mark Cuban.
Yeah, thank you, Mark Cuban.
Yes.
Who do you think were the people selling last night, Andrew? Who were the people selling into that 300-point, 500-point, 700-point, on the lows, 867-point decline?
The Japanese, the Asians? I don't know.
People that weren't hedged.
Oh.
People that were hedged were buying.
Yes.
People that had protection were buying, whether they were buying stocks, whether they were buying gold. I mean, in other words, and when I was on the panel with CNBC on halftime, they're all saying, you still think he's going to win? And I said, yes. And then they said, you still think we'll be down 700 points or 5%? And I said, yes. But I said, it's going to be a screaming buy, just like Brexit. And it has been.
Yes.
We went positive in the first few minutes of trading today. And now I think the decision is, in the future, because this won't be the last time you have an opportunity to hedge. But when some members of the panel were saying, well, Doc, you can't possibly time it. Yeah, I did. And it's not because John's the smartest guy in the room. It's because you had a definite day and a time that you could focus on, and then you could put on trades. You were talking, Andrew, with the VIX Sonar report about people hedging in the day after the VIX calls that closed on the opening today, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
There were also VIX calls that go out further into the future, but there were a number of things you could have done to hedge. We supposed, you and I, that Mark Cuban, being a smart guy and having done this with Yahoo stock before, probably did a collar, probably bought S&P 500 puts against his if he has an S&P 500-like portfolio. I will assume for the time being that he does, because I don't know, of course. I'm not his financial advisor, so I can't say what Mark Cuban has. But I'm suspicious that he probably has a lot of big-cap stocks in there because he's already rich. He probably takes some private equity shots. He takes shots on Shark Tank. But overall, I bet his investment portfolio is fairly blue chip, which means S&P 500.
Shark Tank investment's got to be a pain in the ass for him. Honestly, come on.
I mean, it's got to be fun to be exposed to new things and
like
to also become a media star because, he wasn't before that.
I know.
But now he is.
He's got that Trump envy. Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the Mark Cuban thing. I know he's got that. Remember that one of the investments, one of his good ones, where they do the surfboards at the gym? where you put the surfboards and you kind of like waddle around on them like you're surfing. I think that's kind of fun. But like, could you imagine like in the middle of the night, like, hey, the surfboard people are calling, they need more money. It's like, get them up, just give them what they need, get them out. I'm sick of this, and then like the nutrition guys or whatever he invests in on the Shark Tank. Anyway, enough about Mark Cuban. Inauguration. Go ahead.
Okay.
I have a.
No, I was going to say one thing that's hugely apparent is the huge sell-off in Smith & Wesson. Now, under our present president, Smith & Wesson and Strum Ruger, our RGR and SWHC, have had monster runs since Barack Obama has been president, because everybody's always concerned that the president, through his rhetoric, has said over and over again he wanted to take away their guns, and that this isn't what America's about, and blah, blah, blah. So that kind of rhetoric, whenever he would speak about guns, you had to be along those stocks. Well, this is one of the biggest drops I've seen for Smith & Wesson.
Oh, yeah. So you think it's still?
They're saying we don't think Donald Trump's going to take away your guns.
I don't know. Do you think it's a buy or no? I don't know. I wouldn't mess with it. I wouldn't mess with it.
Nope, I wouldn't yet.
And there's the picks out here, going forward. Other picks that we like. I'll tell you what. This isn't actually a pick, but I have a prediction.
All right.
Everybody's like the inaugural balls. I think, as a conciliatory measure, and I don't know Donald Trump. My aunt and uncle used to work for him, but I know he's flamboyant in certain areas, especially his house in New York. But I think he's going to tone down the inauguration celebrations. I don't think they're going to go full on. And a couple of things that make me think this are, one, during the primary, he was like, I can't believe they're going to take down the scaffolding around the Congress so that they can have a pretty shot. He goes, I'm going to leave it up. He goes, that's $2 million. I think he's going to come through with some stuff that people are like, really? We're not going to do like 10 balls for donors? And he'll be like, nah, we're not doing that. And then, maybe set a tone for more fiscal, conservative frugalness. I don't know what you want to call it. And he'll say, well, we're not doing this. And people are going to be like, hey, that's good. That's smart. Everybody will be kind of like, I can get behind that. I don't know. That just seems like something simple. And he seems like the guy that'd be like, no, leave the scaffolding up. I'm doing an hour or two during the parade. You don't have to get all this stuff out. 1 or 2 marching bands. I'm done. And one party. And maybe, party at the Trump. Oh, by the way, he's got 2 houses now on Pennsylvania Avenue. Neck.
There you go. I don't know. You know that part of him from your exposure to him better than I do. I'm always thinking that politicians want to congratulate themselves, and I'll be surprised if Mr. Trump doesn't congratulate himself. So you're an outlier with that call. I'll say that he'll have black ties and balls because Kellyanne Conway is his campaign manager, and she knows that's what the big donors and things expect. But obviously it's not going to be the Koch brothers. It's not going to be, Paul Ryan and John McCain and all these guys that basically turned their back on him. Mm-hmm. What I love about this, Andrew, is he doesn't owe any of these clowns anything. I mean, it's nice to have somebody who hasn't been bought and paid for, and we'll see exactly how that plays out throughout his presidency. But I think that's a little bit of the optimism that I'm seeing right now.
Hey, did you see that thing yesterday they called the mannequin challenge?
Where you freeze.
Yeah, I think that's
when you're. Yep.
I think that's pretty cool. So here, this is what I'd be doing if I work for Donald Trump. I'd say, come on, get all the ex-presidents together and do like a president one, like right before he walks out. They can all be like mannequins. Just kidding. You know,
You're full of interesting ideas today, Andrew, but I don't think the next president is going to be
Come on,
listening
let's do a mannequin challenge here. George Bush, you stand here. It's funny because these guys are all going to have to go there and like pose in a picture with this guy because they're going to have to go to the inauguration, right? They don't have to, but won't they? Like, kind of have to get in a picture with Trump's?
Again, none of that matters to me. It matters to Kellyanne Conway, the campaign manager, and she'll make sure that, he follows protocol and does what he needs to do in that regard. But as far as, people, the never Trumpers, if they show up or not, do I care? Well, certainly not. But I don't know if Mr. Trump cares either. Well, but I think if Kellyanne Conway says, hey, this is what we do, I think, unless it just goes against his sensibilities, he will adhere to her advice. Yeah. That's partly why he got elected.
Yep. And here's the other one, too. John Kasich is doing a speech, I think, tomorrow. Was it tomorrow? Maybe the next day? Maybe it is tomorrow. Who knows? About the future of the Republican Party.
Interesting. Yeah, like he knows anything about it.
It's like...
I mean, it's like you were part of the problem, sir.
He thought that he was
all these never Trumpers.
He thought he was going to lose.
The problem.
He thought he was going to lose. He's like, well, maybe I won't do that speech this week. Anyway, that's fun.
And we were right, knock on wood, Andrew, we were right about the election. We were right about the sell-off. We were right about the VIX. I'm patting ourselves on the back. But we were also right, the down ticket. What happened down ticket? One seat turned, and it's one that we all called. I mean, did we really think Barbara Boxer's seat was going to go Republican? No, but it was already Dem. That's not a turn. The one in Illinois is the one that went, the Senate seat. There's still a couple of races that are close, but it looks like the Republicans will hold the Senate as well as, of course, the House. And we called for that and said, hey, the down ballot stuff is what vanished for Ms. Clinton. And it didn't mean that she was going to lose, but it certainly meant that she wasn't going to have a Congress that was going to back her on what she wanted to do. And that was another read-through that we had based on, the empirical evidence over the weekend.
Yeah. I guess it's only a matter of time before we hear the let's rein in executive power. All right, John. Sure. I'm going to get this up before I go over and film the VIX on there.
All right, sir. Well, folks, remember that the people that were selling had to sell. You don't want to be in that position. If you want to learn more about hedging and so forth, there's a lot of great free spots to do that. Investitude has some of that. The CBOE has some of that. CBOE.com. The OCC.com has good free information. And, of course, people like Pete and I have written books on it. If you were somebody who was scared last night when the market was down 500 and 600 points, instead of seeing it as an opportunity, well, then all you got to do is get educated a little bit so that for the next time, whether it's a Fed meeting or anything else, you'll be ready. Remember, subscribe to the podcast, iTunes.com, or to YouTube. Thank you.